Good morning. I'd like to call the meeting to order. I acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Innu Cree, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from the Shoal Lake 40 First Nation and Treaty 3 territory. My name is Neil Harden. I am chairing today's panel. With me in the meeting room is Doug Marks, and via Zoom is Valerie Werhan. The assessor today is Araman Singh, and the recording secretary is Jaswinder Kumar. We will be hearing the application for revision of the assessment role in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the board. The board is appointed annually by council as independent of it in the city administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order to be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decision with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value reclassification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following a swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions the applicant may have, then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You'll receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live stream recorded and will be part of the public record. We'll be hearing items 1 and 3 through 6 on our docket today. Mr. Kumar, please affirm the assessor's and applicant's testimony.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. Mr. Assessor, please state your full name.
Armon Singh.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Mr. McKibben, please state your full name.
Howard Lindsay McCubbin.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Please, sir.
All right. The first property on today's agenda is 275 Alexander Avenue. Mr. Singh, you can read in the information, and then I understand there's a non-co-op requested on this. So then you can proceed on the non-co-op.
Just 1 second. Sorry, I misplaced the papers. This is file number 22-1958, roll number 1308-148-4000. The address is 275 Alexander Avenue. It's surface parking. Zoning is character. The land area is 13,224 square feet. Outdoor parking stalls is 35. And we are requesting that the burden of proof be placed on the applicant for non-cooperation according to section 53 brackets 3 brackets B of the Municipal Assessment Act, and If a reduction in assessment is ordered, that it follows section 54, 3.2 of the Municipal Assessment Act. And we are recommending to maintain the 2023 assessed value of 534,000.
Okay, can you lead us through your evidence on the non-co-op?
So if you look at page 6 and page 7, this is the I&E income and expense mailer that the owner handed in. He lists no revenues whatsoever, and he only puts in the property taxes, and he hasn't given us anything else, any other information according to his I&E mailer.
Okay, is that your presentation then on the non-co-op?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. McCubbin, any questions on the non-co-op?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Singh, was there ever a follow-up letter sent, registered to the owner requesting this additional information?
Follow-up question, I wouldn't know about that.
Okay, so this is the original submission by the owner, is it?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Those are all the questions I have, Mr. Chairman, right now.
Okay, Valerie, any questions on the non-co-op?
No, none, thank you.
Doug, any questions?
None for me, thank you very much.
Okay, I guess the question I have is, do you know if this was received in response to the initial letter or to the follow-up sent by registered mail?
This would be actually I wouldn't I can't say for sure on that. I'm assuming this is the initial letter that was or the expense mailer that was handed in to us.
Okay. So you don't have any record then in your file of a registered letter having been sent?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you for that. So Mr. McCubbin, on the non-co-op then.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. We're requesting that the non-co-op be disallowed and the burden of proof not switched in this instance, because we do not have proof that the assessment department has sent out registered mail requesting additional information on this property. And that's our position.
Okay, any questions on that?
No.
Okay, Doug, any questions?
No, none for me, thank you.
Valerie, any questions?
None, thank you.
I just have one. Mr. McCubbin, the department received a reply. So isn't that evidence that the owner received the initial letter?
Yes, we're not saying, Mr. Chairman, that the owner did not receive the initial letter, but in an instance like this, if the department needs additional information, they've always sent out a second request in regards to that. If the information was insufficient, in a sense, they would send out a second request by registered mail asking, in some instances, as far as I know, for that additional information. As far as the owner is concerned, they comply with the city's request, though maybe not in totality. I think in this instant, when the board shifts the burden of proof, it usually has to do with the applicant receiving a second request from the assessment department, signing for that registered letter, and not submitting that additional information or information requested by the assessment department. So that's our position, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, on that though, the response simply gave the city information they already knew, which was what the property taxes and property and business taxes were. So in effect, the important information on the income and expenses simply wasn't provided.
Fair enough. These were very difficult times, as you can well imagine. This property is owned by the property next door, a restaurant, and they used it for parking. So within that period, Mr. Chairman, and the surrounding area downtown, there is essentially hardly anyone coming downtown to work, renting parking spaces, no one going to restaurants, etc. So I suspect maybe that's why the owner filled it out as best as they can at this point in time, and their expenses were property taxes. They probably didn't clean the lot, I'm not sure. So I think really if the property assessment department needed additional information from this owner, they could have simply contacted the owner by phone or by sending a registered letter asking for additional information. This is a very this situation that we found ourselves in back in 2020, Mr. Chairman, was not a situation we have experienced before, not in my lifetime. So,
all right.
I just want to say something in regards to that, if I may.
Sure, you can.
Yeah, first off, the 275 Alexander Avenue, which restaurant owns it?
I believe this is used for parking by the Marigold restaurant.
That's located at 245 King Street?
No, the Marigold restaurant. It's not on Main Street. It's just one block off from me.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, in regards to that, everybody had a rough time in 2020, but a lot of people handed in their income and expense mailers properly with their income, and they handed it in more than what was given to us by this particular owner. This particular owner just put in their property taxes, and that was it. You're talking about hardships. 2020, a lot of people have hardships, but a lot of people handed in their income and expense mailers with showing their income and everything. So that's all I have to say.
All right.
In response to that, Mr. Chairman, is it possible?
Yep.
There are varying degrees of hardship, Mr. Chairman, experienced by people within through the pandemic. Restaurants, especially, were hit very hard, and parking lots downtown, especially, were hit very hard. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for those presentations. Then we will now recess for the panel to consider the non-co-op.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll come back into session. The board has considered the request for non-co-op and we're prepared to grant it. The evidence is that the request for information was received and responded to, but essentially left blank. And in terms of all usable information for the city, the court precedents are very much that once the city can show that the request for information had been received and effectively not responded to, then our discretion ends at that point. And it doesn't matter whether the city actually would have used the information in their analysis or not. It still should be granted. So in this instance, we're going to grant it. So, Mr. McCubbin, then you can proceed on value.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're dealing with file number 221954. Mr. Chairman, the property is 275 Alexander Avenue, roll number 13-0814840000. Just to go to the assessment summary, Mr. Chairman, the property owner is WT Enterprises Limited. Number of parking stalls associated with this roll number are 35. The site area is 13,224 square feet. The zoning is character zoning, downtown Winnipeg. The assessment year we're dealing with, Mr. Chairman, is 2023. The reference date being April the 1st, 2021. The current 2023 realty assessment is $534,000. We're asking for a reduction to $238,000, Mr. Chairman. On page 6 of my presentation, subject property is a 35-stall parking lot at 275 Alexander Avenue in the northwest corner of Alexander and King Street in the Chinatown neighborhood of Winnipeg's inner city. The lot serves the patrons of the adjacent Marigold restaurant. The properties have the same owner. The site is also adjacent to the site of the former site of the Shanghai restaurant. The site size, according to the City of Winnipeg Assessment and Taxation Department records, is 13,224, as was stated. The neighborhood is objectively inferior from a future development perspective, as evidenced by the alarming amount of property crimes and the much lower than average median household income in the area. Below, you can see the parking lot associated with this appeal, Mr. Chairman. You can see an aerial photograph on page 7, and you can see the parking lot as it stands. It was virtually empty at the time of this photograph was taken. Getting to the highest and best use, Mr. Chairman. The highest and best use is defined in the Appraisal of Real Estate, 3rd edition, as the reasonably probable and legal use of vacant land or an improved property that is physically possible, appropriately supported, and financially feasible, and that results in the highest value. In order to determine highest and best use, the following considerations must be made. Number 1, it must be a legal use permitted under local administrative regulations such as zoning. Number 2, the use must be probable rather than unlikely or highly speculative. Number 3, the use must be complementary rather than competitive, and there must be a demand for such use. Number 4, the use must be the most profitable for the entire property and generate the highest net return over a reasonable amount of time. After looking at these 4 points, Mr. Chairman, it is my conclusion that the highest and best use for the subject property is considered its current use as a parking lot, not land to be developed. If I can turn your attention to page 11, please, of my presentation. The municipal board addresses the issue of ancillary parking in 2 orders attached to this report. Municipal board order A-11-018 on 225 Broadway. And I quote, having proximity to its own parking adds value to the enterprise, and developing the parking lot would have repercussions on the owner. The board is persuaded that the highest and best use of the area in question is a parking lot for the assessment year of 2008. And that's a direct quote from the order. And I will be filing the order as rebuttal evidence for your information. It is not case law, it's just a matter of guidance, Mr. Chairman, how we treat these properties, and it will stand for possibly the entire docket in regards to properties on the docket. So going to the valuation of the property, Mr. Chairman, as I've stated, the stalls are 35 in total. What we've done is we've placed a gross rate of $48 on the first parking stall, arriving at a gross income annually of $20,160. An expense allowance of 45%, which is usual with parking lots, especially surface parking lots, Mr. Chairman, in the past, is calculated here, and arriving at a net operating income of $11,888. I must refer to previous assessment cycle, the one that's closer to this, because the city of Winnipeg did not put out any information in regards to capitalization rates for this cycle in regards to parking lots. So, barring that, we're using a similar capitalization rate that we feel is appropriate and that we have used in the past of 5% to capitalize the net operating income. We arrive at a value of $237,760, Mr. Chairman, or 238 rounded, 230,000 rounded. Given the limited development potential, the area and dependence on the parking by the main holding, we conclude that a cap rate of no less than 5% ought to be applied to the subject. Now, if I could turn your attention to the appendix, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
In particular, page 14 and 15, you can see a map of the downtown area in regards to parking, and this was put out by the assessment department for in their treatment of it was embedded in their information in regards to the 2023 reassessment. So this map, you can see that the property falls in the NCA 102. So it's a parking lot, an outer downtown area, and the net income per stall is $31.50 to $58.50. There's a band there. Now, when you look at what we have placed on the parking in regards to in regards to the net income per stall, it works out to be, I believe that is correct. Just bear with me, Mr. Chairman. It works out to $28.30, as it says there. So it's slightly lower than what is portrayed in the city's own information, Mr. Chairman. And given the fact that this owner had a hardship, quite a bit of hardship, and continues to have hardship with respect to the business and the parking situation on the subject property, we feel net rate per stall of $28.30, which falls slightly below the $31.50 minimum, is more than adequate for this property. And we ask the board to regard that in valuing this property. We have the ability to review this property every 2 years now, Mr. Chairman. But for now, we feel that this rate suffices given the hardship that the owner has had during the last few years of the pandemic. I do believe, and you may find out throughout this hearing, that the city, in all cases, defaulted to a land value for parking lots. And I can tell you it's a very difficult thing to do by mass appraisal, given given the experiences of many businesses downtown. Some businesses flourished while others didn't. The highest and best use of this property is still as a surface parking lot. The development horizon is way off, so it should be regarded as a surface parking lot and should not be related to vacant land sales that are ready for development, Mr. Chairman. And that's my presentation, and I'm open to questions.
Okay, questions, Mr. Singh?
You're on mute, Mr. Singh.
I don't think it's my call.
Yes, one of your arguments is neighborhood is objectively inferior for future development perspective, as evidenced by.
Sorry, I can't hear you, Mr. Singh.
Oh, yeah. One of your arguments is the neighborhood is on page 6. That paragraph you mentioned the neighborhood is objectively inferior, evidenced by alarming amount of property crimes, etc. Do you have any? Did you do any research on this, or do you have any evidence to produce for this?
I think, Mr. Chairman, it's been my experience, and I'm sure the board's experience, and anyone who's living in Winnipeg. The research would be the news. The research would be in terms of experience, even walking around the area, and that's all I can say at this point in time. With respect to crime rates, I don't have that in front of me. Property damage rates, I don't have that in front of me, but it's well known that this area suffers from the alarming amount of property crimes, and it is in fact much lower than average medium household income in the areas compared to the rest of the city.
Are you aware that if you go to the Winnipeg Police Service, they have the crime for each area, and According to the records, this area, Chinatown, which I believe NC.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to have to stop. I'm going to have to ask Mr. Singh to not put in evidence, verbal evidence of any kind, unless he's presented it here in a rebuttal fashion or in his report. I can't see what he's looking at, Mr. Chairman, and this is the problem we have working remotely.
Okay. Yeah, if you wish to address crime rates and you have information in rebuttal, you can submit it to us and we'll look at it in rebuttal.
Okay. Can I just comment on it then?
Well, without having the evidence before the board, it's hard for us to put any weight on those sort of comments. If you can email the information to Mr. Kumar, that would be great, and we can address it in rebuttal.
Mr. Chairman, I'll have to object to that, and you're the chairman, and you can run this hearing as you please, Mr. Chairman. But this is the situation I'm encountering here, coming to these hearings and being present, is that evidence is being dug up and presented as rebuttal or direct evidence, and it hampers the agent's case, and it really. It ought not to happen, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, we submit our direct evidence and we submit our rebuttal evidence in advance. To ask Mr. Singh to submit now, as he's looking at some statistics on the internet to this hearing, I think is I'll leave it at that, Mr. Chairman. I think you know my feelings on that.
Well, in this instance, it is rebuttal evidence on your claim of high crime rates. So I think it's appropriate to receive it at the hearing. Typically, when the board receives the rebuttal evidence.
So, Mr. Chairman, are you saying that someone can be looking at a computer and digging up information from the assessment files and continue to file evidence as rebuttal evidence as this hearing goes along? Where does it end, Mr. Chairman?
Well, you have one opportunity to submit rebuttal evidence.
And that should have been done yesterday, like we did, or this morning before this hearing started, Mr. Chairman.
I will say in the past, even just yesterday, the agent submitted rebuttal evidence, and it was emailed to the assessor during the hearing. So
I can't speak for anyone else. This is the way I'm approaching this hearing, Mr. Chairman. There are rules, and the rules are in place for a reason, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, and I will permit him to submit the rebuttal evidence.
I just want to be on record, Mr. Chairman. That's all. I'm not arguing with you. Just want to be on record.
In any event, I don't know what the evidence would serve. We let's put it this way: it's not Wellington Crescent, this area. So the specific crime rates is, I don't know what rests on that. So, Mr. Singh, if you have evidence you can submit to the panel as rebuttal, we'll deal with it as rebuttal at that time.
Yep, that sounds good.
Okay. Do you have further questions?
Yeah. So you mentioned the municipal board orders. Obviously, I heard you mention that you are going to put that in rebuttal evidence.
Yes, I did submit rebuttal evidence, Mr. Chairman, yesterday, as required by this board, or as of late before the hearing started. It was submitted yesterday, and I'll be referring to that. before the end of this specific hearing. Thank you.
Okay, it's
Just looking at your numbers that you handed in, where did you get all this information from?
Well, with respect to the stall count, that's a fact, Mr. Chairman. With respect to the information we used, is we looked at the published information for the 2023 reassessment by the Assessment and Taxation Department. It's contained on page 14 and 15 of my brief in the appendix. The page 14 shows the mapping area of the that would be referenced in the parking income table situated on page 15, Mr. Chairman. So when you look at page 15, you can see that this specific parking lot is in the NC of 102, and the net income per stall ranges from $31.50 to $58.50 per stall. We are slightly under the lower end of that scale, Mr. Chairman, at $28.30. We feel it's appropriate. We could have done, given the fact that it did have substantial and continues to have substantial revenue deficiency, we could have easily ascribed a vacancy rate, but I chose not to. I think using a rate at the lower end of that band that the city had published is appropriate, and applying a 5% capitalization rate is appropriate to determine value at this point in time for the parking lot, Mr. Chairman.
And how did you get to the expense percentage as well, minus 45%?
Sorry, that is an accepted expense ratio from the past, and again, because of the lack of information dealing with these types of properties leading up to the pandemic or during the pandemic, we would have found an expense ratio of a lot higher amount, Mr. Chairman, because the income would have been a lot lower if we had looked at this property or properties such as this. So we think an expense ratio of 45%, which was used in the past, is reasonable. If we had, if the assessment department had done an actual study of the parking situation during the pandemic, they might have found the same. They might have found that expense ratio would have increased dramatically. But we stayed the same at 45%, Mr. Chairman.
That's all for the questions.
okay. Doug, do you have any questions?
Yes, I've got a couple. Where did you get your land value at per square foot? 1798. Where was that?
That land value, Mr. Chairman, is when you look at the value we've arrived at for the parking lot, $238,000, divided by the area of the property. That should give us our land rate. The area is 13,224.
Okay, that's fine. That answers that.
Yeah, it works out to about $18 a square foot.
Okay, the other question I've got is you showed us that map where the rates were on that map per stall, and in the particular we're dealing with right now, you're looking at values of anywhere from $31.50 to $58.50 for that area, and you chose $28.30. Why $28.30?
Because we felt it was fair. It's at the end of or the bottom end of that range. We could have increased it to around $35, but looking at the expense ratio, we would have had to increase that, Mr. Chairman, because the income would not support wouldn't even support the the expenses that were incurred on some properties. So I think it's very reasonable to use a rate at the bottom end of the range and apply, in this instance, 45% expense ratio at the moment.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Okay, questions, Valerie?
Mine were just answered. Thank you.
All right, Mr. McCubbin, I will point out there's an error in your calculations.
Okay.
The NOI is actually 11,088, not 888. And that gives a net rate of 2640 for your stall.
I stand corrected, Mr. Chairman, and a resultant value would be
$222,000, but you're fixed to the 238,000. In this instance, we do not let the parties go further apart.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Now, on the municipal board orders, since they're referenced in your original, your evidence in chief, as we would put it, they
Yes.
should have been included in your brief.
Mr. Chairman, this is a record of public knowledge. Generally, decisions can be filed at any time.
I would agree this is case law and it can be filed at any time. But generally speaking, the board likes to see the entire decision, not just excerpts from it.
Fair enough, but I do have it filed, Mr. Chairman, as rebuttal evidence.
Okay, we'll accept it on that basis as being case law and not evidence per se.
Okay, fair enough. Would you like me to address that now or after Mr. Singh's presentation, Mr. Chairman?
Well, really, it should be addressed now as part of your main presentation, since you did reference it in your, as I say, in your evidence in chief.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
And
So, if I can, sorry?
We don't have it yet, so Mr. Kumar, can you?
It's in the folder, Mr. Chair. I just put that.
All right. So let's see. 6 minutes ago. Okay.
I also sent you an email, Mr. Singh.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it.
All right. So,
Where goes is it?
yeah, go ahead, Mr. McCubbin.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So,
I don't have it here.
Just 1 second, Mr. Hope.
okay.
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm not familiar with rebuttal evidence, but
Yes.
like you
Yeah.
like you were saying before, shouldn't this be referenced in his main arguments?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it should properly have been made in his main brief. But in this instance, because it's case law, we're permitting it into the hearing. Typically, case law is not evidence per se; it's supporting the case. So, if you want a moment to skim through it,
Yeah, this is the first time I'm seeing it, so.
yeah. Go. You can skim through it for a moment, just as we are.
Mr. Chairman, I can point out the highlights that
Yeah, go ahead.
To this situation here. So order in my rebuttal. My rebuttal is municipal board decision. An order number A-11-018. Matter is assessment appeal in regards to the Municipal Assessment Act, Section 56, subsection 2, between Cambrian Credit Union, who's the appellant, and the city assessor, the respondent. You can see the appearances for the appellant in the city assessor below. Mr. David Saunders for the appellant and of Altus Group, and for city assessor Todd Hewitt, legal counsel, Brett Ferguson, appraiser, Stevenson Advisors Limited, and Mr. Robert Buss, an assessor for the department. And turning to page 2 of that order, Mr. Chairman, I'd like you to highlight the second to last paragraph of the order on page 2, where it states Mr. Saunders argues that Mr. Brett Ferguson, the city's appraiser, has surprised him by using an excess land value in his evaluation of the subject property. Mr. Saunders is challenging the comparable sales that Mr. Ferguson has used to determine a market value for the land on the subject property. Mr. Saunders intends to show through assessments of the 5 parking lots that an inequity will exist if their sale values are used instead of their assessed values. And to go further into the order, Mr. Chairman, on page 5, on the second paragraph, Mr. Ferguson, it's the city assessor's position, and the city assessor's position on page 5, second paragraph, Mr. Ferguson considers the highest and best use of the western half of the subject property. This part consists of 16,900 square feet and is used by its lessee in part as a public parking lot. He determines that the highest and best use is for development purposes. He points to the lease between the owner and in part. It is short-term and allows the owner to consider development options for the western half of the property. It further goes on in the third paragraph to state Mr. Ferguson selects sales of 5 surface parking lots in the area. These properties sold with an average price of approximately $40 per square foot, and an average unit price per parking stall is $12,148. He calculates the value of 16,900 square feet used as a parking area using $35 per square foot. This gives a value of $591,500. The entire 33,813 square foot subject property sold in 2004, $1,050,000. Now, if you go further into the order, you can see the owner's position by Mr. Saunders on page 7. The paragraph just before the calculation of potential net income. It states Mr. Saunders calculates income from parking. He applies the assessment department's parameters of $37 per month for all 79 stalls and add this to his calculation of the net operating income. And going further into the order, Mr. Chairman, it's the board's position. This speaks to the board's position, and it's the paragraph on page 9, the third to last paragraph. The valuation of the parking space on the western half of the property requires the board to make a determination of the highest and best use of the subject property. Mr. Ferguson submits that the highest and best use of the property is as currently used, but he argues that the best use for the western half of the property is as a developed property. He develops a value of the land used for parking by using the direct sales comparison approach. Mr. Ferguson identifies a land value of $114,008 per square foot by analyzing the sales of 4 other Class B office buildings. He then goes on to compare the sales of 5 downtown parking lots. From these, he extracts an average value of $40.37 per square foot. And the board goes on to say, owner on page 10 of the order, Mr. Chairman, and first paragraph, owner and the operator of the parking lot is loose and owner and operator of the parking lot is loose and allows for changes frequently. The owner may have intended to use this flexibility to avail itself of more parking as the business grew. Having proximity to its own parking adds value to the enterprise, and developing the parking lot would have repercussions on the owner. The board is persuaded that the highest and best use of the area in question is as a parking lot for the assessment year 2008. So what I'm doing here, Mr. Chairman, is I'm relating this order to the situation in regards to the subject property, wherein the City of Winnipeg Assessment and Taxation Department used land sales to arrive at value, and I guess we will hear what those land sales are. But in my study, the highest and best use of this property, as stated, Mr. Chairman, is still being used as the highest and best use of the property, Mr. Chairman, is as a surface parking lot. And it should be valued as such, not using land sale. It should be valued by the income approach to value. Thank you very much.
Okay. Questions on this, Mr. Singh?
You're mute, Mr. Singh.
You stated that there's 2 properties. Is it just 225 Broadway that you're referencing?
225 Broadway I'm referencing, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so in reality, there's just the one order.
It's just the one order. I stand corrected on page 11. I believe I stated 2.
Yeah. Okay. Further questions, Mr. Singh?
Yeah. And what year was this municipal act? What year was this?
Mr. Chairman, as it states on the first page of the decision and order, this is assessment year 2000.
Okay. And 225 Broadway, what NCA is that?
I believe it's if you look through your order, I believe it's an office building.
But what NCA is that? Because it's not in Chinatown.
I'm not sure how it relates to this order, but the NCA, I guess we can figure it out from the value. Mr. Chairman, I must say that the value is not of consequence with respect to this property and this order. It's the aim and the way the municipal board handled this question with respect to value and highest and best use. The value back in 2008 does not relate to the value today, so we ought not to look at values here. That's what Mr. Singh is attempting to do here. It's just methodology used by the municipal board, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Yeah, I just it's NCA 161. I was just indicating it's a superior location as well. But yeah, I see your point as well. But
is that a question? Is there a question there?
Oh no, you inferred something of mine, and I'm just explaining myself.
Okay, all right. So does that conclude your questions, Mr. Singh?
Yes.
Okay, Doug, any questions on specifically, well, I guess on Mr. McCubbin's presentation overall?
Just one, you're saying that the best use for this space is a parking lot. Could it not go to a multi-level parking lot at this location?
It could do so, Mr. Chairman, if there was a need for it, but at this point in time, it can hardly support the parking that's required in the neighborhood.
Okay.
Even after the pandemic, people haven't come back to the downtown areas they had in the past, Mr. Chairman. So to answer your question, I suspect it possibly can be developed, but there's no demand at this point in time for that density of parking in that area.
Thank you. No further questions.
Okay, Valerie?
None, thank you.
And I have no more questions. Mr. Singh, then you can begin your presentation.
Do you want from the beginning file number?
No, you don't need the file number. That's been entered already.
Roll number, property description, zoning character, surface parking, land area is 13,224 square feet. And the assessed value is 534,000. Recommendation is to maintain the 2023 assessed value of 534,000. Page 2, you can see the subject aerial photos, and you can also see the street level photos of the subject. Page 4 is the land sales comparables that the city of Winnipeg has produced, and I just want to explain that parking lots are typically valued on income approach unless, and I do stress, unless there is a situation where the model land value is higher than the model income value. Comparing and and doing the analysis, we came to the conclusion that the land values are more representative of the market value of the subject land area. If you go to the income value, you're going to be cutting the value basically in half, and that's not representative of the market value of the subject property. Page 5 is the Municipal Assessment Act excerpts. Page 6 to 7 is the INE mailer that the owner handed in or sent in. And, that's it for the presentation.
Okay, questions, Mr. McCubbin?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. So, Mr. Singh, I didn't understand. You said that there was an attempt made by the Assessment and Taxation Department to model the values using the income approach, or something to that effect.
We typically parking lots are valued on an income approach unless the land value is higher. So,
okay.
Yep, go on.
So they're typically assessed by the income approach of value because they're income producing properties. Is that correct?
Parking lots are typically vacant land.
Yeah, and income producing. You derive income from parking lots, don't you?
Parking is on an interim use.
On an interim, do you call 10, 15, 20 years interim?
It's waiting there until there's time is ripe for development.
What is the development horizon of this property, Mr. Singh? What would you submit as the development horizon of the subject property?
Properties in general can be held for a few years until the time is right to sell. So I can't give a official statement when it will be sold, but it is the parking in the downtown area. There's very little land to develop, so it's supply and demand. The only areas to develop are the parking lots. So that's what the city of Winnipeg believes.
So you don't know the development horizon of the parking lot, then, is what you're saying?
Are you asking for a specific date?
Yeah, just to give the board an idea of what you think when this would be developed, because you're using vacant land sales here, which are ready to be developed for.
Again, if you're looking for a specific date, I don't have a specific date.
You don't have it. What is the highest and best use of this property, Mr. Singh, as it stands today?
Highest and best use is vacant land waiting for development.
So the highest and best use of this property is not surface parking.
Yes.
So, okay, I'm not going to argue with you on that. That's your statement. So, which is your best comparison on page 4, Mr. Singh?
Going down the list, there's only 7 comparables. But if you look at, I would say, number 2. And I just wanted to point out number 6 and number 2 are the same properties. And number 6 sold at 2013 for $411,700. And then it sold again in 2018 for $1,204,000. If you're looking for the best comparables,
right.
Number 2 would be all right, and 13,000.
So you feel number 2 would be your best comparison here?
They're all pretty good, but number 2 is 2018, and I'm just looking for all these comparables are pretty good to the subject property.
Has number 2 been developed? Or is it to be developed? Do you know, can you tell me any details in regards to that sale of the property?
Number 2 is still surface parking.
It's sold as surface parking?
I said number 2 is still surface parking.
It's still surface parking, but the puck is V commercial.
Sorry, wrong. Wrong comparables. Number 2 is has been changed to a RESAP.
RESAP. Okay.
Apartments.
So it's an apartment zone, right? To develop apartment. Those are all the questions I have at the moment, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Doug, any questions?
No questions from you, thank you.
All right, Valerie.
None, thank you.
Okay, that 265 Princess, is that relatively newer apartment that was built near the corner of Princess and Logan?
I believe so. I can just check. Yeah, so it's in the corner of Logan and Princess. Yes.
Okay, so that was developed in just recent years then.
Yeah.
And the land was sold for development purposes. I guess I have no more questions on that one. So does either party wish summation, Mr. McCubbin?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chairman. I'll do a quick summary here, summation. We've used the income approach to value this property. We feel that the highest and best use of the property as it stands today and for the foreseeable future, Mr. Chairman, is a surface parking. It ought to be valued by the income approach to value. This is a very difficult situation we're in, and I think doing a mass appraisal on these properties without looking at each property's unique situation at the time of the reassessment is sort of foolhardy in a sense. Just to sort of resort to land value is not appropriate. The assessor, Mr. Chairman, produced sales, and his best comparison is one that was used for development purposes. And the subject property is nowhere near the development perspective. It's the horizon is way off, Mr. Chairman. And I asked the board to reduce the value in the interim of this property based on its highest and best use to $238,000. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Singh, summation.
Yeah, so you're getting two different opinions. We based it on land value. The income, if you go by the income value, you're cutting properties across the city of Winnipeg by half, basically, during that time period. That's not representative of market value. We're asking the board to consider the land comparables. 1 through 7 is pretty good comparables within close to the subject area, and we're asking the board to assess the subject property at $534,000.
All right, thank you. We will go on to 550 Main Street. Let me just open the files.
Mr. Chairman, I believe that has been withdrawn.
Oh, sorry, yeah. All right, yeah. Never mind. 231 Princess. I knew that. Okay, I'll just open the files. Okay, so Mr. Singh on 231 Princess.
This is file number 22-3208. Roll number 13080124000. Address 231 Princess Street. The assessed value we have is $189,000. This is classified as surface parking. Zoning is character. Land area is 4,849 square feet. Recommendation is to maintain the 2023 assessed value of $189,000. Page 2, you can see the subject property aerial photos. And page 3, you can see the street level photo of the subject property. Page 4, you can see the subject sale history. Page 5 is the land comparables, which were produced in the previous location as well, all in the vicinity and close by. Page 6 to to 11, you can see the I&E submitted by the owner. And page 12, you have the subject property actual rates as of April 1st, 2020. They only listed a student rate of $100 with 11 stalls. And for the record, I forgot to mention our outdoor parking stalls that we have on record for the city of Winnipeg is 13. And that's my presentation.
All right. Questions, Mr. McCubbin?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Mrs. Singh, you produced the sale on page 4 of your brief in regards to the subject property. Can you give us any further information on that sale?
Other than it was 2013 and it sold for $590,000.
Do you know when the other property was included in that sale, or any details in regards to the sale, vendor, purchaser?
No, I don't.
No. Okay. And Mr. Chairman, with respect to, in order to be brief here with my questioning, with respect to page 5, can my questioning from the last property be considered the same line of questioning in regards to the sales produced, Mr. Chairman? Or would you like me to go?
Those are the same comparables, I believe. So yeah. Well, we don't need to repeat those questions then.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
So, okay, that's the end of your questions then?
Yes, those are the end. That's the end of my question.
Okay, so, Doug, any questions?
Just one, this property is fairly close to the last property we dealt with.
It's yes, because it's in the same NCA, Chinatown, 172.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Okay, Valerie, questions?
None, thank you.
Okay, it's appears to be basically across the street from the previous property, across King Street. Is there? It's part of the. Is it part of the parking lot for the Shanghai restaurant? Is it? Oh no, it's not across. It's not across King Street. It's further to the west. Yeah. Okay.
So it's Princess Street and Alexander. It's
yeah. Well, I guess across
Avenue.
across Alexander Street. It seems. Looking at the aerial photo you have on page 2, it seems to be a long, narrow lot. There are buildings to the south and north of it. Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe there's buildings to one side of it, and then the other side is another parking lot.
Okay, well, looking at your photo on page 3, then it seems to be buildings on both sides of it, at least partially.
Let me just check. Yeah, so on both ends there's buildings, but but on one side, the other side is a parking lot.
Yeah. Question is, how developable is this long, skinny piece of land without buying other property?
So this piece of land, the city does recognize that it's not, it has limited development potential, but at the same time, that's reflected in our assessed value of the property.
Well, I don't know, how is that reflected when you're basically using according to your own land sales, you're using the median price. Shouldn't it be at the low end then, if it's not really very developable?
Yeah, I didn't say very developable. Well, like I said, it depends on whether somebody buys the other lots or they come together and do something with that lot. But the city does recognize that it does have limited potential for development, and at the same time, it's reflected in our price. Even if you look at the comparables, if you go down to the low end, then you're looking at around 160,000. Is that market value for the land? That's arguable to debate.
Okay, no more questions. Mr. McCubbin, you can proceed with your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I could turn your attention to page 2 of my brief, please. The property owner is Winnipeg Chinatown Seniors Care Home. The property address is 231 Princess Street. And there are 14 parking stalls associated with this parking lot, Mr. Chairman. The site area is 4,849 square feet, tantamount to a residential lot in size. It's Zone C, character zoning. The assessment year we're dealing with is 2023. The 2021 realty assessment is currently at $189,000, and we're asking the assessment to be reduced to $108,000. On page 6 shows the relative location of the subject property, Mr. Chairman, in the center of the aerial photograph. It's a long, narrow lot. Very difficult to get into and to be able to park in there in any fashion. It's paved with no other amenities, so there's no power to this site, Mr. Chairman. You go to page 7 of my brief. I will get right to the highest and best use because I've discussed it in the previous, so please let that stand in regards to these properties, Mr. Chairman. The highest and best use for the subject properties is considered its current use as a parking lot, not for development currently, but as a parking lot. My rebuttal evidence and my evidence with respect to the treatment of such lots please refer to that. I don't believe I have to go through that again, Mr. Chairman. The remainder.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, thank you. With respect to the value, Mr. Chairman, if I can turn your attention to page 10 of my brief. Per stall, net income of $32 per month will be used to arrive at market value. And now that per stall income, net income, Mr. Chairman, can be found again at page 14 of my submission in the NCA 102, where the city has it $31.50 to $58.50 for the lower end of the range. Given the circumstances with respect to this property and what we're dealing with here today and in 2021, we're attempted to value this property at market value as of April 1st, 2021. So we're using 14 stalls at $32 per month. Times 12 months, we have net operating income of $5,376, capitalized at 5%. We arrive at a value of $107,500 or $108,000 rounded. I ask the board to reduce the value to that amount. If I can turn your attention to the submission by the owner, Mr. Chairman, on page 16, you can see in this case, the net operating income is below what we're promoting for the use of value with respect to this in the valuation of this property. The owner is reporting a net operating income of $2,008.54. We're using more than twice that amount to value this property. We feel is fair and reasonable at this point in time. As I've stated before, this is a situation many owners found themselves in, with parking lots in the downtown area, with no development horizon in the near future in regards to these lots. They will continue to be used as a parking lot, and their income has essentially been gutted. And we're nowhere near what they're reporting. We feel net operating income that we're promoting of $5,376 is reasonable. And that's my presentation. I'm open to questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, questions, Mr. Singh?
I'm just wondering, what do you charge for non-students parking?
Can you repeat?
Hello? Yeah.
Sorry?
Oh, what do they charge for non-student parking?
For I didn't get that, Mr. Chairman.
I think the question is, what do they charge for non-student parking?
Oh, yes.
Non-student parking.
I guess casual parking.
Sure. My brief. It's not relevant to my presentation, Mr. Chairman.
Well, it is his question, but
it's his question, but I don't have an answer. It's not part of my presentation. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, that's fine. Further questions, Mr. Singh?
No, not really.
Okay. All right, Doug, any questions?
None from me at this time, thank you.
Valerie, any questions?
I'm good, thank you.
And I have no questions, so thank you very much. We'll take a 10-minute break at this time. All right, thank you. We'll come back into session. Next property on the agenda is 216 Logan Avenue. So, Mr. Singh, you can proceed.
So this is file number 22-2237. Roll number is 13096060400. Address is 216 Logan Avenue. It's Parcel use is surface parking. Zoning is character. Land area is 27,307 square feet with outdoor parking of 81 stalls. Recommendation is to maintain the 2023 assessed value of $1,027,000. If you look at page 2 is the subject property with aerial photos, and page 3 is street level photos. Page 5 is the land sale comparables that we produced. Page 6 is the excerpts of the Municipal Assessment Act. And page 7 through 8 is the I&E submitted by the owner. And page 9 is the subject property actual rates as of April 1st, 2021, with monthly parking of $130. That's the presentation.
All right. Questions, Mr. McCubbin?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. My questions in regards to the evidence, Mr. Chairman, if I can ask, they're essentially the same as the last two properties, the same sales were used.
Yes.
And this is rationalization. I will just ask Mr. Singh, what is the highest and best use of this property?
The highest and best use of this property is vacant land. Interim use is parking, waiting for development.
Thank you.
Okay, Doug, any questions of the assessor?
Just one. Is there any proposed development in this area other than parking lot?
They do have a plan for Chinatown, but it's not in my evidence. But they have produced a file, a 50-year plan of development in Chinatown. If you want to check the website, it's on future prospects, and it's a file with including this property that they want to develop.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Valerie, any questions?
None, thanks.
Okay, this is a very irregularly shaped property. How does that impact on its development potential?
It is irregular, but I see a rectangle with space on the side. So on the rectangle, you can build what you may, apartments, whether it's office buildings, whatever you may build. On the side would be parking. For the other related properties are for yourself.
Okay.
That's one perspective that you can use.
Now, I have heard this property in past cycles, and if I recall correctly, there was an agreement with the restaurant next door. I think it was, if I remember right, Kamkun Gardens, to allow for their use for parking on a portion of the lot. Is that still in place?
I can't tell you for sure, but according to the Imparks monthly parking, it is used by Kamkun Garden.
Okay, because to be quite honest, I'm not even sure if Kamkun Garden is still open, but this day and age. But
that was as of April 1st, 2021. So
okay, yeah. All right, and no more questions then. Mr. McCubbin, you can begin.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. The property owner is 4520068 Manitoba Ltd. The address is 216 Logan Avenue. The area is 27,307 square feet. There are 81 stalls associated with this property, Mr. Chairman. The reference date is April the 1st, 2021. The current realty assessment is $1,027,000. We're asking that the assessment be reduced to $605,000. On page 6 of my brief, Mr. Chairman, you can see the lot and its relative shape. It's not a uniform lot with various access problems for this specific property. Looking at the page 7 of my presentation, I will read verbatim from this. The subject property is an 81 stall surface parking lot at 216 Logan Avenue in the Chinatown neighborhood of Winnipeg's inner city, and it serves the patrons of the adjacent Kumkoon Garden restaurant. The properties have the same owner. The lot is also adjacent to the former Royal Trading Pawn Shop, which is now a neighborhood convenience store. The parcel is irregular in shape, which would hinder future development. The lot is leased to Impark. Restaurant patrons pay for parking and they are reimbursed by the restaurant. The restaurant then recovers the cost from Impark. The site has character zoning with a total land area of 307,000 square feet. Mr. Chairman, access and egress is an issue with respect to this property, as there is no access from Main Street. It's not allowed. And the access from Logan Avenue requires crossing through 2 lanes of oncoming traffic. There is no turning left on King from Logan, as King is a one-way street going north. So you can see at the intersection of Main Street, between Main and King Street, you can see how busy it can get in that area. And I'm sure members have driven in this area before. It's very difficult to get into this parking lot turning left from Logan Avenue. Again, the neighborhood is objectively inferior from a future development perspective, as evidenced by the alarming amount of property crimes and much lower than average median income in the area, as previously stated. The highest and best use, Mr. Chairman, is its continuance of its current use as a parking lot, not for development in the near future. With respect to valuation, I'd like to turn your attention to page 11. We're using the income approach to value, not the direct sales comparison approach, Mr. Chairman. We feel it's not appropriate at this point in time, given that this is a surface parking lot used for parking, and that's its highest and best use. In this case, we reviewed 2 years of income and expense for the subject and stabilized the result, and the stabilized result is $55,000. Less expenses at 45%. We arrive at a net operating income, Mr. Chairman, of $30,250. Applying a capitalization rate of 5%, we arrive at a market value rounded of $605,000. As of note is the net operating income equals to $31.12 per stall. And if I can turn your attention to page 15 of my presentation in the appendix, Mr. Chairman, again, you see that table as published by the Assessment and Taxation Department in regards to parking lots, specifically in this NCA, with the net income per stall going anywhere from $31.50 to $58.50. We're at $31.12 per stall for this parking lot, Mr. Chairman. In regards to the income and expense statements, you can see for the months ending, 12 months ending December 31st, 2019, the total income is $71,630. And then in 2020, it drops to $41,643, Mr. Chairman, and that's due entirely to the pandemic at this point in time, and it remains very low. We've stabilized the income at $55,000, and I asked the board reduce the value to $605,000. And that's my presentation. Thank you.
Any questions, Mr. Singh?
No.
Okay, Doug, questions?
No questions at this time, thank you.
Okay, Valerie, questions?
None, thanks.
Okay, I'm not sure I grasped it, Howard. What's the relationship with Kamkun Garden there? How do they count for the parking?
The restaurant patrons pay for parking. When they go in, they take a ticket, and then then they're reimbursed by the restaurant. That was the agreement. But since the restaurant has, as you know, it has suffered immensely during the pandemic. There were no patrons coming to the restaurant. The value of the income for the parking lot itself has been diminished. You can see it in the reporting of the income and expense statements.
Yeah,
that's part.
So I guess the I was just trying to ensure that the income they report is a valid income and is not artificially low because of the arrangement with the restaurant.
Yeah, and all I can do, Mr. Chairman, is go off the income. We take it to be a fact, and there's a reason why the income would drop from 2019 of around 71,630 to 41,643. So I hope that answers your question.
Yep. That is a very good explanation for that. All right. Any summation by either party?
I'm okay, Mr. Chairman. I'm good.
Okay, so we'll go on to 133 Pioneer.
This is file number.
Let me just open the files first. Okay, now you can proceed.
This is file number 22-1774. Roll number 1209-380-6100. Address is 133 Pioneer Avenue.
Okay, I see there's a non-co-op requested, so can you present your evidence on the non-co-op?
If you notice on page 14 of the INE mailer that was handed in to us, the owner reported absolutely no revenues. He just reported water, waste, snow removal, property taxes. So also, this is the same owner in the previous assessment who handed in the exact same INE mailer and was had a non-co-op put on the subject area. Also, in the subject property photos, I inspected the area December 20th, 2022. It was very cold that day. but
Lucky you.
Notice, there's monthly parking, there's meter, there's rates posted, page 6. This is on page 4, page 5, page 6. And so obviously he must have received some type of income, but he just hasn't reported it in the last few years, or since last. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay. Questions, Mr. McCubbin?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So with respect to the non-cooperation using section 53.3 subsection B of the MAA, was the owner, you did receive the income and expense statements from the owner, correct?
We received the incomplete income and expense information, yes.
Right. Was there a follow-up in regards to a phone call, in regards to requesting additional information done by the Assessment and Taxation Department in the form of a registered letter? Anything to contact the owner or the contact, the controller, with respect to the income of the property when reviewing this INE? Has any attempt been made?
Again, this year I'm not too sure, but he did the exact same thing at the last assessment as well.
We're dealing with this assessment. I'm asking you questions. So you're not aware of whether anyone was contacted directly while
this assessment, no.
Right, and then the Assessment and Taxation Department did not send out a registered letter requesting additional information, or
again, I have no idea whether they have or not.
Those are all the questions I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Questions, Doug?
None for me, thank you.
Valerie?
None, thanks.
Okay, so again, to confirm, there was a mailer that was returned, which would indicate that, in fact, the owner had received it. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then the city is requesting non-cooperation because there was no income information reported. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. McCubbin, on the non-co-op.
Mr. Chairman, there was no follow-up as far as I can see in regards to attempting to contact the owner of this property. Of note, you can see on page 16 of the assessor's brief, Scott Bathgate is the tenant's name. In The primary use is other. There's no lease information, no monthly rent. I do believe yeah, and there was no follow-up by the Assessment and Taxation Department. No record of attempting to contact the controller for this property in regards to why. So I submit that the non-compliance should not be allowed, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any questions, Mr. Singh?
No.
Okay. Doug, any questions?
No, thank you.
Valerie, questions?
None, thanks.
Okay, then the panel will recess to consider the ruling. So thank you very much. We'll come back when we've made a decision. All right. We'll come back into session. The board has considered the request for non-co-op, and in this case, we're going to grant it for the same reasons as previous. The lack of income information is tantamount to not replying to the request, at least in part. And there is no requirement, as per the Ligerson decisions, there's no requirement for the city to follow up once a request has been made and received. So, Mr. McCubbin, then the onus goes to you, and you can proceed.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. The property we're dealing with is 133 Pioneer Avenue. The roll number is 12-0938-06100. We're dealing with the 2023 realty assessment. The file number is 22-1774. The site area is 13,638 square feet. It's zoned multiple use. And the reference date is April 1st, 2023. We're asking that the realty assessment be reduced from $1,303,000 to $1,179,000, Mr. Chairman. Going to page 6 of my presentation. The subject property is located adjacent to Shaw Park Stadium, Bullseye Stadium, corner of Pioneer and Westbrook Streets. Pioneer Avenue and Westbrook Street. The site is unimproved and is currently used as a commercial surface parking lot. Our records indicate that there are currently 47 parking stalls. The site is unpaved and supplies hydro. Site size, according to the City of Winnipeg Property and Assessment and Taxation Department, is 13,638 square feet as stated. You can see the irregular shape of the site down below, Mr. Chairman. It's on the corner. Page 7 shows the nature of the parkade in the summertime. You can see that it's not paved. The highest and best use, Mr. Chairman, on page 8 is a continuance of its current use as a parking lot. with respect to the income approach, I'll have you turn your attention to page 11 of my presentation. We have 47 parking stalls. The potential net income is $107,000 with a vacancy percentage of 45%, arriving at a net operating income of $58,938. In effect, that should be, instead of a vacancy percentage, that should be an expense allowance, Mr. Chairman.
And I had thought so.
Sorry?
Said I had thought so.
Sorry. And we arrived at a net operating income of $58,938, capitalized at 5%. The total value is $178,760 or $179,000 rounded. In the appendix, you can see the relative parking lot. Now, this would be within the subject would be within the green area of the parking map on page 14 of my presentation. I note that it's, however, highlighted. NCA 102 is highlighted. That's incorrect. It should be the one above, with a span of 56 to 104 as net income per stall of this area. When we the net income being 58,938. So the net income, according to our valuation, Mr. Chairman, is $104.50. So you can see it's a little higher than that band by 50 cents. The band is $56 to $104 per stall net income, as submitted by the city in their reassessment information, published on May the 13th of last year. And that is my presentation.
Okay. Questions, Mr. Singh? Okay.
Page 2, is that the subject property?
Pardon me?
On page 2, you have a picture. Is that the subject property?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay. It was just a question.
No, it's incorrect. The actual subject property you can see is on Pioneer Avenue as it turns east. And it's signified by the red dot here. And the parking lot is on page 7. That's the type of parking it is.
And you also mentioned the vacancy allowance is actually expense allowance. So I got that part. And I just wanted to make sure for this property, subject property, you're requesting $86.45 per square foot. Is that correct?
I would have to do that calculation there, Mr. Chairman. I suspect it is, if his math is correct.
If my math is correct.
Sometimes the calculator doesn't function. $80 even, yes.
Those are all the questions.
All right, Doug, questions?
Yes, right now that's being used as a parking lot. I believe it's being looked at for other uses. Is that correct?
That may be so. Yes, Mr. Chairman, but its current highest and best use is this parking lot.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Valerie?
None, thanks.
All right. I noticed from your map and your photo on page 7, it's right next to the High Line railroad line there, CN Main Line, basically.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman. Yeah.
Are you aware of any development restrictions along the High Line?
Well, there is, I'm aware, it's not in my evidence, but I am aware of development restrictions, and they imposed upon anyone who would build close to the High Line. There's a setback, and there's also noise abatement that has to take place in the type of construction that one would undertake. I know the Forks is in the throes of looking at developing right along the High Line there, on the other side of the High Line, and there are certain restrictions involved, particularly being located that close to the High Line, Mr. Chairman.
I believe it's 30 meters setback.
Pardon me?
I believe it's a 30 meter.
Yeah, you may be correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
So,
it's...
it does limit the development potential compared to something that's not as close as this. But it's being used for parking right now, and that may be the highest and best use as it stands for quite some time.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. Mr. Singh, you can begin then.
This is file number 22-1774. Roll number 12093806100. Address 133 Pioneer Avenue. The assessed value is $1,303,000. Parcel use is surface parking. Zoning is multiple use. The land area is 13,638 square feet, and the outdoor parking stalls is 47. Recommendation is to maintain the 2023 assessed value of $1,303,000. Page 2, you will see the subject property aerial photo. And page 3, you'll see the subject property photos, street level. As previously mentioned, 4 to 7 are pictures taken of the subject property by myself, December 20th, 2022. You can see the monthly parking, meter parking, and the rates that were posted there. Page 9 are the land comparables. These are different land comparables from the previous locations because it is NCA 171. And page 10, the city of Winnipeg does recognize that there is a restriction with the railroad for development. It doesn't mean that it can't be developed, but there is restrictions on it. So we have included the income summary from the city of Winnipeg. And we have it at 47 stalls We put a monthly net unit rent, $92 per stall. Net operating income comes out to $51,888, and overall capitalization rate of 4.5%, for an estimated value of $1,153,000. This is on page 10. On the bottom of page 10, you can see the comparable properties. 2020 reported rental rates for surface parking in that area, with a median of $96.38 and a mean of $96.38, with the min and max as well. Page 11, you can see the income value summary. Again, we have net operating income at $51,888, capitalization rate of 4.5%, comes out to estimated market value of $1,153,000. And these two combined with the land sales comparables, and which the land sale comparables came out with 13,638 square feet at $95.55 per square foot. They're very comparable, the land sales and the income value. Page 12 are the capitalization rates of done by various corporations, and I present that on page 12. Page 13 are Municipal Assessment Act excerpts. Page 14 to 19 are the IE mailer sent in by the owner. And the rest was the 20 to 25 was the Board of Revision order from last assessment regarding non-cooperation. And that's my presentation.
All right. Questions, Mr. McCubbin?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. Singh, in this case, the city has shown an actual income value and referred to it for $1,153,000. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you said, and in your statement, you said that's supported by the land values. Is that correct?
I said that the two values are pretty close in approximation to each other.
Okay. All right. And with respect to your capitalization rate, 4.5%, how does that relate to page 12 of your submission?
So parking lots don't have cap rates. Parking lots are vacant land, and basically page 12 are cap rates done by various companies showing different areas like office, industrial, retail, multifamily, and hotel. We put that there to show that the cap rates of different areas. The cap rates for parking lots, we came up with 4.5% because there's generally, especially in that area, there's generally lower risk involved, and in the downtown area, it's pretty high profile, and that's why we came up with 4.5%.
Those are all the questions I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Doug, any questions?
No questions this time, thank you.
Valerie?
Yes, just one question on the cap rate. If it's more of a risk, would the cap rate not be a bit higher?
What I said, it's a lower risk. It's a lower risk.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. I missed it. Thank you so much.
Sometimes my mic doesn't work.
Okay, you're not relying on the income approach though.
No.
Since your value is less than Mr. McCubbin's.
Right. So we are relying on the land sales comparisons. We included the income approach to show that it is very close together in proximity to each other. The values that came out.
All right. Okay, thank you very much. Let's go on to our final property.
Mr. Chairman, may I have a bit of summation on this property?
Yeah, you can, yes.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. In regards to the value, Mr. Chairman, we're very close when you look at that produced by the Assessment and Taxation Department in terms of its highest and best use, which is that of a parking lot. The city of Winnipeg is promoting a value of $1,153,000, and our value is at $1,179,000, merely a rounding off figure in that instance. I don't think that Mr. Singer, the assessment department, has really done any relation and adjustments with respect to the sales that they have used on page 10 of the brief. They've just put 11 sales on the brief and left it up to the board to decide whether the minimum, maximum, and the median or mean are any relation in terms of development for this property, or in terms of any relation in regards to value of this property as it relates to its development potential. We have a situation here, Mr. Chairman, where the income approach is less than what we're asking for. And in this case, I will agree with the city's income value submission on this property and ask the board to look at actually reducing the value to $1,153,000. I think it's an appropriate way to address the value of this property, as it is an income producing property, and that's my submission. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Singh, do you wish a submission?
I just reiterate, we are depending on the land sales comparisons. Comparables 1 through 10, they are in the close proximity to the subject area, and they are very good comparables. And that's it for my summation.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll go on to 416 Main Street, right beside what used to be the TD Tower. I don't know what it's called now. But you can proceed, Mr. Singh.
Yes. This is file number 22-2565, roll number 13096010400, address 416 Main Street. Parcel use is surface parking, zoning is multiple use and character. It's NCA 171. Land area is 30,059 square feet. Outdoor parking is 83 stalls. The recommendation is to maintain the 2023 assessed value of $2,946,000. Page 2 are the aerial photo and the street level photo of the subject property. Page 3 is the subject sale history. Page 4 is the land sale comparables. It's the same land sale comparables as the previous property. They're all close by to the subject area. Page 5 through page 5 is the Municipal Assessment Act excerpts. Page 6 through 16 is the INE submitted by the owner, and page 17 is the subject property actual rates as of April 1st, 2021, with a monthly parking of $240 per month. And that's it for the presentation.
Okay. Questions, Mr. McCubbin?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Mrs. Singh, if I can turn your attention to page 4 of your presentation, please. Specifically, comparison number 5. That's very close in relation to the subject property's value per square foot. Is that site developed?
Currently, as of this year, comparable number 5, 242 Hargrave Street has been developed into RESAM, R-E-S-A-M.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Oh, it's currently changed to RESAM. This to R-E-S-A-M. I believe that's.
Is that not the site of the True North Tower?
Yes.
Okay. And that's developed as we speak. So this property, what is the highest and best use for this property?
For this property, again, the highest and best use is for development. Interim use is parking.
For the highest and best use, as far as you know, is for development in the near future. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'll provide rebuttal evidence to that effect, Mr. Chairman. So you did receive income and expense statements from this property, did you not?
Yes.
Page 16. But yet an appropriate income approach was not used on this property.
On this property?
Those are all the questions I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you. Doug, any questions?
Questions, thank you.
Valerie, questions?
None, thanks.
Okay, a question I have on your comparables. I think Mr. McCubbin touched on it on the 242 Hargrave, but I also think, I mean, I've seen these presented before. Isn't property 9 on Carlton Street, wasn't that part of the land assembly for the Sutton Place hotel development?
Comparable number 9, it was combined with the adjacent property. And I believe so. I'm not too sure on that.
Okay, so the question I have then is, isn't the value of a parcel of land higher when a buyer is looking at a specific development on this in a specific location rather than the developer can, simply buy wherever he wants? Is that would that be a correct statement?
In context, because if you look at the downtown area, there's a very shortage of land. The only land that you can build on are parking lots in the downtown area. So, if you're referencing 242 Hargrave, we just took the sale price as of 2016. So we don't really know what the motivation was behind that, but it was an arm's length deal.
Yeah, but it's a motivated buyer, would it not be?
I can't say to that.
I mean, really, you have to have, if you got a motivated buyer or a motivated seller, then is that a valid sale comparison then?
Again, it was an arm's length sale. I can't comment on, because I just don't know. It was motivated.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So, Mr. McCubbin, you can begin then.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. If I can get you to turn your attention to page 2 of my brief. Property owner 6841768 Manitoba, Inc. The property address is 416 Main Street. There are 58 parking stalls associated with this property. That should be 83, Mr. Chairman. What happened here, there was a merge with a piece of vacant land that the owner owned to the north of the original property. So in total now, the parking stalls total 83. It's zoned M. The site area is 30,059 square feet. The reference date being April 1st, 2021. The current assessed value is $2,946,000. And we're asking for a value of $2,450,000. Turn your attention to page 6 of my presentation. It is located adjacent to 2001 Portage on the north side of Main Street. On the north side on Main Street, the site is unimproved and is currently used as commercial surface parking lot. Our records indicate, and I'd have to correct this, there are currently 83 parking stalls instead of 58, and the site is unpaved. The site size is, you should read, Mr. Chairman, 30,059 square feet. As I've stated, there was a merger between two parcels of land. The original parcel to the south was 23,300. Page 6, the The aerial photograph shows the relative location. I believe the board would be well aware of this site. It's been a gravel parking lot for many years since the demolition of a building some years ago, and it's had substantial difficulty in getting a development prospect for that parcel of land, and I'll get into that. But the highest and best use, current highest and best use is as a parking lot, Mr. Chairman, not as the prospects for development. I'm not sure what that horizon looks like, but there has been many attempts to develop this site in the past to no avail. There is a variance on the site, Mr. Chairman. When the property was merged, that variance included the necessity to upgrade lighting, the trees planted on the property, a bench, fencing, and this was all done 6 months before COVID hit us, Mr. Chairman. There's a wooden enclosure for bins located at the back of the property to the north end of the site. These were all conditions for the merger of the two parcels, and a substantial amount of money was outlaid to get to that. Revenues have been down 40% for this parking lot. It's now, however, close to 80% of what it used to be, but still down from its original revenue status. This parking lot, Mr. Chairman, is essentially dead in the evenings and weekends. If you drive by, you will see, because of the ability to get anywhere from this parking lot. It's essentially dead. So it doesn't pick up any sort of income after hours in terms of concerts that may be happening in the area or games at the True North Center. Conditions with respect to the variance also include the parking lot shall not be paved. I can tell you, Mr. Chairman, there are substantial issues with this parking lot. Every now and again, the surface tends to have a depression within it. Below the parking lot lies the basement of the original structure that was never demolished. It was just filled over. So there are cavities below this property, Mr. Chairman. So that hinders, that's a maintenance problem right now with respect to this property. What else can I tell you? There was a prospect, there was a proposal to develop the Wawanesa building, head office here on this site. It never went through, Mr. Chairman. One of the reasons is that it's very difficult to develop the site. The city will not allow egress off of the site onto Main Street because of its location. Ingress can be associated with the site from Main Street, but that has to be studied. It's a very busy part of Main Street coming up to Portage Avenue. The city does not want traffic being hung up in the bus lane coming into this site. So there is no access from Main Street onto the site. There's egress and access from the back lane. The owners attempted to develop this site, and the only egress the city would look at sort of ingress from the from Main Street, but egress had to be off on a back lane. The owners within that vicinity shot down that proposal because they all use the back lane, Mr. Chairman. And if you look at the site, the overhead, you can see where that back lane is associated with the site I'm speaking of. It's on page 6 of my brief. You can see the back lane is just to the north upper end of the site. They would have to go through that and or further up from that. And it was essentially a no-go to acquire that piece of property. There was also a proposal for the hydro tower to be built here on this site, Mr. Chairman, way back in 2003, but the proposal was unsuccessful. So we do have significant problems developing the site. The owner does. It remains a parkade with maintenance issues, and it's a gravel lot. Turning to valuation of this property, Mr. Chairman, if you look at page 11 of my brief, stall count is 83. The gross rental rate per stall is $240 that we've applied on this property. For gross annual income of $239,040, $239,040. We're allowing in this instant, because of what has been going on and continues to happen to the site, 15% vacancy allowance in our workup. You can see our starting gross rate is higher than what was reported by the owners on page 20 of my brief, Mr. Chairman. The owners reported $225. We're using $240, but allowing for 15% vacancy. We're allowing an expense allowance of $80,676, or around 40%, somewhat less than traditional. For surface parking lots, it's typically 45%. I think we're being very reasonable in treatment of this, the valuation of this property. It does have value, but not value for potential of development in the near future. This value is a surface parking lot. Our NOI, Mr. Chairman, of $122,508 amounts to a net rate per parking stall of $123. If you look at the city's information that I provided, again, that I've been referencing throughout these hearings, on page 14, you can see the parking lot associated with this NCA would be the top, and the high end of that range, Mr. Chairman, is $104. We're at $123. We're using a capitalization rate of 5%, which we feel is appropriate for this type of property, given the conditions that affect this property. It's unable to be surfaced with asphalt, so there's continuing maintenance issues with this property. Our value is $2,450,000 using the income approach to value. And I have rebuttal evidence, Mr. Chairman. I I can deal with it now for expedience sake. And
Okay.
also-
We'll have questions first of all on your main brief, so and then we'll deal with your rebuttal.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So, Mr. Singh, questions on his main brief.
Mr. Singh, you're mute.
Got it. Just to clarify, you are asking for $81 per square foot on this property, is that correct?
$81.51 to be exact, Mr. Chairman.
And on your previous property, you were asking for $86.50.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to have to stop Mr. Singh there. These are site-specific valuations I'm doing here on these properties and addressing the issues. That's not evidence with respect to this property, Mr. Chairman. So,
Mr. Singh is entitled to ask the questions
okay, fair enough.
he wishes. So, go ahead, Mr. Singh.
So for the previous property, you were asking for $86.50, which is the current property, 416 Main Street, is a high profile and significantly better location. How do you justify the difference between the two?
Do you want to enter that into so we can discuss this now? Because this is somewhat ridiculous at this point in time, Mr. Chairman. There are two different properties. I'm doing two different valuations. He's entering evidence that I'm not entering on this property at this moment in time, and I'm answering questions on a previous value. These are standalone assessed values and site-specific. Please ask me questions on this property. But if you choose to do that, I will tell you I've outlaid significant properties, significant issues with respect to the subject property I'm dealing with now in terms of development. And that's my answer.
Okay.
Again, you have the vacancy rate. Vacancy isn't associated with parking. How do you explain you're taking the vacancy of 35,856?
Mr. Chairman, we've used a gross rental rate of $240. We felt a vacancy percentage of 15% to account for the drop in revenue was appropriate. However, I can do a calculation on the actual rental rate per stall, and I will tell you exactly what the gross without any vacancy rate is, if that's helpful. So
I don't see it being of much value, to be quite honest.
Alrighty. To answer your question, the vacancy rate was done to address the issues with respect to reduction in revenue. If you look at the income and expense statements at the back of the property, at the back of my brief, you will see the outlining of the lot revenue. If we had used that, Mr. Chairman, we would come up with a negative value. I'm attempting to place a reasonable value on this subject property using logic and some sort, and also the history with respect to this property. Thank you.
And you're presenting evidence regarding the variance in your rebuttal. Is that correct?
Pardon me? Sorry?
You're presenting evidence regarding the variance in your rebuttal. Is that correct?
We'll get to his rebuttal
okay.
after the questions have finished.
Oh, okay.
And you'll have the opportunity to question his rebuttal at that time.
Okay. Yeah. No further questions.
Okay, Doug, any questions?
Yes, the frontage along Main Street, is that 235 as it states in your brief?
Sorry, is that?
The frontage
Yes.
along Main Street?
Yeah. Is it
235?
235 feet frontage? That may be so.
Okay.
It's substantial along Main Street. It's do I have that
On
in
page
my
15
brief?
of your brief. I was just wondering.
Sorry, page 8 of my brief?
Yeah.
Page 8 of my brief. Mr. Chairman, is there an amount there with respect to frontage?
Yeah, it says 235. I was just wondering if that.
Okay. That would be the frontage then along Main Street. It's more than the frontage on the back lane. Yeah.
What would it be on the back lane?
I don't have that.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions.
Okay, Valerie?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, just looking at your valuations then, you're using a net value of 123 per stall, and the Pioneer Avenue was a 104.50 per stall. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I have no more questions on your main brief, so you can present your rebuttal then.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have it, Mr.
Yeah, it's labeled as the file name and the applicant rebuttal.
Okay.
What page is that?
Is that the one labeled applicant rebuttal?
No, it's labeled as file number 222565 and then applicant rebuttal.
Thank you.
Got it?
Yeah.
Let me just refresh that then.
This must be lying.
Oh, I see it now, yeah. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
You're going to give me a sore neck with this one, though.
Oh, sorry. Can you flip it around on your screen? No.
I have to download it.
PDF? No.
Yeah, I have to download it and rotate it.
I can read it.
No, I got it.
Got it? Okay, great. Okay, so the first part of the rebuttal, Mr. Chairman, it's from Global News, posted on September 18, 2018. And it has a photo of Portage and Main on the lamppost there. And down below it says, would like to develop a barrier to developing Portage and Main. Property owners say, that's what they're saying. They would like to develop the empty property, but the lack of access due to barriers is blocking development. If you go to page 2 of that, Harvard Building Incorporated says the barriers at Portage and Main mean the vacant lot at 416 Main Street, which lies just north of its 33-story tower at 201 Portage Avenue, is unlikely to be developed. I think the single best impediment, and I'm quoting here, I think the single best impediment to us moving forward with a vision for developing is the fact that people can't get to it, said Roseanne Hill. And so the opening of Portage in Maine would really spur the opportunity and the interest and excitement around what can be at this corner. Across the street, the owners of the Richardson's building agree. The property owners have invested significantly in our properties over the years and continue to do so today. More needs to be done. Portage and Maine was closed to pedestrian in 1979, underwent an agreement with the property owners at all four corners in an effort to drive traffic to an underground mall. The agreement is up in 2019, and all four property owners have signed letters of support for the removal of the barriers at Portage and Maine. Winnipeg will vote in a plebiscite on October 24th. And I think we know where that went. It was voted down, Mr. Chairman, unanimously. Details, if I could turn your attention to the last page. This is from Winnipeg News, the Winnipeg Sun. The heading is Details of Portage and Maine Tower Emerge. A skyscraper plan from downtown Winnipeg near the corner of Portage Avenue, Main Street will be 28 or 29 stories tall. Crestman Properties appeared before the City of Winnipeg Committee on Downtown Development, Heritage and Riverbank Management on Monday morning, seeking permission for a 5.4 meter wide hotel entrance on the west side of Main. The proposed building would be constructed on an empty lot at 416 Main Street and would include 237 hotel rooms with meeting and banquet space, 30 condominium units to be located on the building's top 6 floors, 4,000 square feet of office space, a restaurant, and a spa. The name of the hotel has yet to be revealed. Construction of the building, located at 201 Portage Avenue, is set to begin in August. The City Committee unanimously approved the hotel entrance, and the developers plan to turn part of the public back lane into a private road, provided nearby property owners agree with the change. And this is the egress I'm speaking of. We are encouraged by the outcome of today's meeting. Edwards told the Sun will continue to advance and improve our feasibility plan for the proposed development of 416 Main Street. The entrance will serve as a drop-off point for hotel patrons and will require moving a bus stop. That in turn will require some metered parking to be eliminated, along with a loading zone on the west side of Main Street. Guests will be dropped off at the entrance to be located roughly 40 meters south of the McDermott Avenue, but will have to exit through a lane at the rear of the property. This development, Mr. Chairman, and this happened, this was published on June the 24th of 2013. As you can see, it never happened. We're having problem egressing from this lot. It's a difficult lot to develop. It remains surface parking. It's unpaved with substantial maintenance issues. And I ask the board to reduce the assessed value to the reasonable amount of $2,450,000. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Singh, questions on the rebuttal?
You mentioned that was 2013. Do you know when the two parcels of land was connected together to form one?
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Oh, I was just asking if you knew the dates of when the two parcels were.
The two parcels were merged. It's my understanding in 2019. You should have that information. The original parcel was some 23,000 square feet. and it was merged with a parcel to the front of it, it makes no difference in terms of development. We still have the prospect of egress and ingressing difficulties associated with that.
No further questions.
Okay, Doug, any questions on the rebuttal?
No questions on the rebuttal. Thank you.
Okay, Valerie?
None, thank you.
Okay, summation, Mr. Singh?
I just wanted to bring up the fact that the two parcels were merged together in 2019, and there were variances attached to it. The city doesn't allow you to buy property unless it's going to be developed in the downtown area. The variance that's attached to it is, I don't have the variance in front of me, so roughly it's landscaping around that parcel. And that ends December 31st, 2023. At that time, PP&D will decide what will happen to that land. Yeah, and that's the summation of that property.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have summation now, Mr. McCubbin?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Just in regards to what Mr. Singh just said there, I believe I did in my direct let the board know the conditions for the merge, and with respect to the variance, it included upgrading the lighting, trees, bench, fencing, etc., and a wooden enclosure for the bins at the back of the property. So I spoke to these conditions before that variance, and for that variance and for the allowance of the property to be merged and to be used as a parking lot. Continued. That continued use as a parking lot will end, as stated, 5 years originally from the variance. At that point in time, it can cease to have any income whatsoever and just sit vacant. Right now, it is getting income with respect to value. The value may be driven down even further once this happens. But right now, we have valued this property by the income approach to value. And this is a situation which can deteriorate in terms of the value of this property in the future. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. We have now heard all properties on today's agenda, and this hearing is now adjourned. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for your presentations.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we'll come back in 30 seconds or so to